Hey everyone, it's Rob Ryder. It's Monday, June 3rd, 2013. And I got to go through this kind of fast because they may come turn my power off today. Be that as it may, this is kind of important to me. Don't call me Mr. First of all, what does it mean when they put an apostrophe in the middle of a word? Because these definitions came out of Webster's dictionary, but let's go through it. So what is Mr.? The common title of address to a gentleman and to men of all classes. Now we're talking a class system. In writing, it is expressed by the abbreviation Mr. Now my only times in court, whenever I was in there, it was always video court, and they always called me Mr. Ritlewski, and I've always had a problem with that because to me Mr. means you're in the military, and that would put you in their jurisdiction if the guy you're dealing with is the custodial marshal. But let's go on. So Mr. is the common title of address to gentlemen. And what's a gentleman? Genteel, that is genteel and man, see genteel. In the most extensive sense in Britain, every man above the rank of yeoman, now we're talking ranks, right? That's military, comprehending nobleman. In a more limited sense, a man who, without a title, bears a coat of arms. So without a title, in other words, you're not landed nobility, you don't have a title, but you're bearing a coat of arms. And so when they say you can the right to bear arms, they're talking about a coat of arms. It's also a term of compliance. In the plural, the appellation by which men are addressed in popular assemblies, whatever may be their conditions or character. Compliance. Deference to the wishes of others, willing compliance. Willing compliance. That's what a gentleman is. A term of compliance. And an act of willing compliance. Right? You comply. In Great Britain, the servant of a man of rank who attends his person. That's what a gentleman is. A service of a man of rank. And in the military you have ranks. Now, this is where it gets real interesting. So, on the character of these earliest gentlemen, the records throw a lurid light. According to Sir George Sitwell, the premier gentleman of England, as the matter now stands, is Robert Edswick of Stafford, genteel man, who has served among the men of arms of Lord Talbot at Agincourt. He is typical of his class. Fortunately for the gentle reader, will no doubt be anxious to follow in his footsteps. Some particulars of his life may be gleaned from the public records. He was charged at Staffordshire assizes with housebreaking, wounding with intent to kill, and procuring the murder of one Thomas Page, who was cut to pieces while on his knees begging for his life. It's back in 1414. If an earlier claim of the title gentleman be discovered, Sir George Sitwell predicts that it will be within the same year, 1414, and in connection with the same similar disreputable proceedings. From these unpromising beginnings, the separate order of gentlemen has been slowly evolved. You don't want to be called a Mr. By courtesy, this title, gentleman, is generally accorded to all persons above the rank of common tradesmen. There's that rank again, while their manners are indicative of a certain amount of refinement and intelligence. The Reform Bill of 1832 has done its work. The middle class system, has come into their own, and the word gentleman has come in common use to signify not a distinction of blood, but a distinction of position, education, and manners. Saussure in Melibos, 1386, says, certes he should not be called a gentleman, that doeth his diligence in business be to keepen his good name. Don't want to be called a gentleman. May be called the old story told by some, very improbably, of James II, of the monarch, who replied to a lady petitioning him to make her son a gentleman, I could make him a nobleman, but God Almighty could not make him a gentleman. That no charter can make a gentleman. which is cited as out of the mouth of some great princes that have said it, adds that they, without question, understood gentleman from generos in the ancient sense, or as it came from gentilis in that sense, as gentilis denotes one of noble family, or indeed from gentleman for a gentleman by birth. For no creation could make a man another blood than he is. And gentilis denotes one of noble family. Gentilis is Latin for Gentile. Gentile derives from Latin genus, which together with forms of cognate Greek genos and derived gene, general, genus, and genesis. The original meaning of the clan and family has extended in post-Augustan Latin to acquire the wider meaning of belonging to a distinct nation or ethnicity. Later, still, this word came to refer to other nations, not a Roman citizen. After the Christianization of the empire, it could also be used of pagan or barbarian cultures. It could also be used of pagan or barbarian cultures. So when they call you Mr. Rytlewski, they're saying you're a pagan, that you're not a Christian in this court that's overseen by the Protestant religion here in America, because they're the ones who set up the system. And it is the religion of slave traders. Made big business. The Dutch and the English did, bringing the slaves over to America until they couldn't do that anymore. So then what they do in Africa is they just killed them all, take over the land. Same thing they did here with the Indians. They're going to say you're a pagan, barbarian culture. Don't let them call you mister. Sheldon, Titles of Honor, 1672, discusses the title gentleman, speaks of our English use of it as convertible with nobilis, and describes in connection with it the forms of ennobling in various European countries. William Harrison, writing a century earlier, says gentlemen be those whom their race and blood, or at least their virtues, do make noble and known. And noble is not really a good word, because nobles think they're above everybody else, and God says all men are equal. But for the complete gentleman, the possession of a coat of arms was in his time considerably necessary, and Harrison gives the following account of how gentlemen were made in Shakespeare's day. Gentlemen whose ancestors are not known to come with William Duke of Normandy, for the Saxon races yet remaining we know make no account, much less of British issue, do take their beginning in England after this manner in our times. Whosoever studieth the laws of the realm, this is how you become a gentleman, whoso abideth in universities, giving his mind to his book, or professeth physic and liberal sciences, or besides his service in the room of a captain in the wars, or good counsel given at home, thereby his commonwealth is benefited. Whereby his commonwealth is benefited, right? Benefiting the state. Can live without manual labor, and thereto is able and will bear the port, charge, and countenance of gentlemen. He shall for money have a coat of arms bestowed on him by heralds, who in the charter of the same do of custom pretend antiquity and service many gay things, and thereunto being made so good cheap be called masters, which is the title that men give to esquires and gentlemen, and reputed for a gentleman ever after. And we got people running the courts that are masters. Masters at the bench, right? The days of old, they should have been members of the clergy. Who knows what happened? Which is so much the less to be disallowed of, for the prince doth lose nothing by it, the gentleman being so much subject to taxes and public payments as is the yeoman or husbandman, which he likewise doth bear the gladder for the saving of his reputation, being called also to wars, for with the government of the Commonwealth he meddleth little. So gentlemen don't get involved in the government, or they shouldn't. Whatsoever it cost him, he will both array and arm himself accordingly, and show the more manly courage in all the tokens of the person which he representeth. No man hath hurt by it but himself, who peradventure will go in wider buckskins than his legs will bear, or as our proverb saith, now and then bear a bigger sail than the boat is able to sustain. This is the way Shakespeare himself was turned by grant of his coat of arms from a vagabond into a gentleman. Basically, they purchased a coat of arms. They purchased a license. The fundamental idea of gentry symbolized in this grant of coat armor had come to be that of essential superiority of the fighting man, and, as Sheldon points out, the fiction was usually maintained in granting of arms to an ennobled person through the long robe wherein he hath little use of them, as they mean a shield. So coat of arms is really a shield. At the last, the wearing of a sword on all occasions was the outward and visible sign of a gentleman, and the custom survives in sword worn with court dress. Yet after 1413 we find it increasingly so used, and a list of landowners in 1431 printed in feudal age contains, besides knights, esquires, yeomen, and husbandmen, i.e. householders, a fair number who are classed as gentlemen. Sir George Sitwell gives a lucid explanation of this development, and the incidents of which are instructive and occasionally amusing. And again, he's the guy that said gentleman was, somebody who hacked somebody else to pieces. The immediate cause of the statute 1, Henry V, 1413, which laid down that in all original writs of action, personal appeals, and indictments in which process of outlawry lies, the estate, degree, or mystery of the defendant must be stated, as well as his present or former domicile. So Mr. makes you a gentleman, right? And I guess Rytlewski could be your former domicile. It's a family name. It was a clan, right? Where are you from? I'm from the family Rytlewski. Now, the Black Death of 1349 had put the traditional social organization out of gear. Before that, the younger sons of the noblesse had received their share of the farm stock, bought or hired land, and settled down as agriculturists in their native villages. Under the new conditions, descriptions in England, take this matter more seriously. Neither must we honor or esteem, he writes, those ennobled, these would be gentlemen, or made gentle in blood, who by mechanic and base means have raked up a mass of wealth, or who have purchased an ill coat of arms at a good rate, nor more than a player upon the stage for wearing a lord's cast suit, since nobility hangeth not upon the airy esteem of vulgar opinion, but is indeed of itself essential and absolute. Elsewhere he deplores the abuse of heraldry, which had even in his day produced, all the world over, such medley of coats, that, but for the commendable activity of the Earl Marshals, he feared that yeomen would soon be as rare in England as they are in France. So interesting. We really don't want to let them call us Mr. That makes you a gentleman. That can be construed as you being pagan, not Christian. Not a man of rank, no title. Even this classification would seem to need modifying, for certain of the great patrican families of the cities were certainly noblesse. This became increasingly impossible, and they were forced to seek their fortunes abroad in French wars, or at home as hangers-on of the great nobles. These men, under the old system, had no definite status, but were generossi, of birth, and being now forced to describe themselves, they disdain to be classed with Franklin's, now sinking the social scale, still more with yeoman or husbandmen. They chose, therefore, to be described as gentlemen. So nobilis, Nobiles, I have to look that up to see exactly what that is, but I think you get the idea that being called a gentleman, to let them call you Mr. Rytlewski in court may be a mistake. I would have to tell them, excuse me, I cannot allow you to slander my God-given character. My given name is Robert Allen. I'm a son of God. I'm a Christian. If you are. If you're not, say, I'm not under your jurisdiction. I don't have any Judeo-Christian beliefs. Anyways, just one of those things. They're trying to get the presumptions out in front that you agree to be Mr. Rytlewski and then a citizen of the state of Michigan, right? Resident of the state of Michigan, I think is probably a better term, that you're a resident of the state of Michigan or whatever state, and we don't want to let them do that. And again, if you can donate, please do. Power company was in my driveway today. I'm not really sure what that means yet, so I'm kind of rushing through this to get it done in case I turn the power off. There's my address. PayPal account is ashleyrytlewski@gmail.com. Yeah, I know it's a email account, but it's also her PayPal account. Now, one other thing we're looking at real quick. Bob in Massachusetts picked up on this, that the DMV, when he was looking at the DMV in Massachusetts, sounds like they get their information from Social Security, SS5. If you look at the SS5 form, full name at birth, if other than above. First, you got name to be shown on card, and then full name at birth, if other than above, and then other names used. So he's going to take this form down and find out if he can put his true real name in someplace, right? Have them define what the full name is. It's their law. What's the full name? And say, well, my true real name is Rytlewski, Robert Allen, or Shelmo, Robert Francis, or whoever it is. That may be what goes into block number 3. It's in block 1, other names used. And so let's say on that block we put Rytlewski, Robert Allen, and filled the rest out, and they gave you a new card. Would it now show both names and tie the two together? Bob's down trying to find out right now. He's rocking and rolling. We'll see what he comes back with. But it could be as easy as filling out the SS5 and changing this thing here where other names used is something other than the same as what's already on the card. So you're going to go down and see if they'll answer any questions, or if you're just going to run into counter trolls that confess and avoid away from the truth. Find out soon enough. Talk to y'all soon. See ya.